The Silent Guardian. For 300 years, the seat of Earth remained empty in the Grand Galactic Council. The ornate chair, crafted from materials gathered across a dozen star systems, stood as a silent reminder of humanity's unexplained absence from interstellar politics. Positioned among the founding species' thrones, Earth's vacant seat had become both a curiosity and a source of unease for the hundreds of alien civilizations that made up the Council. Ambassador Nelra of the Vesperian Collective ran her scaled fingers along the armrest of the human throne. As the Council's newly appointed historian, she had been tasked with investigating the mystery that had puzzled her predecessors for generations. "You won't find answers by simply touching it," came a gravelly voice from behind her. Nelra turned to face Elder Kraz, the ancient Procyon representative, whose species had been among the first to make contact with humans nearly 5 centuries ago. "There must be records," Nelra said, her feathered crest rising with frustration. Humanity didn't simply vanish. They were a founding species of the Council. Their disappearance should have triggered investigations, diplomatic missions, something. Elder Kraz's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of discomfort among his kind. "There were investigations. I was part of the last one, 2 centuries ago. We found nothing but automated defense systems preventing approach to their solar system. No communications, no explanations." Nelra's research had uncovered fragments of information, references to sealed archives, redacted Council minutes, and encrypted communications from Earth's last days of contact. Something had happened, something significant enough that the entire species had withdrawn not just from the Council, but from galactic society altogether. "I've discovered something," Nelra said, lowering her voice. "In the deep archives. Messages that were sent just before Earth went silent. They're heavily encrypted, but I've managed to decode portions." Kraz moved closer, his exoskeleton creaking with age. "What did they say?" "They spoke of a discovery beneath their planet's surface. Something ancient. Something dangerous. They called it the Sleeper." The messages suggested they were implementing containment protocols. The elder alien's posture stiffened. "You shouldn't be looking into this, historian. Some mysteries are better left unexplored." But Nelra couldn't let it go. In the weeks that followed, she gathered allies, curious scientists, adventurous explorers, and even a few Council security operatives, intrigued by the centuries-old mystery. Together, they formed an unauthorized expedition to do what no one had successfully done in 300 years: visit Earth. Their ship, the Stellar Inquirer, was small enough to avoid detection by most automated security systems, but advanced enough to defend itself if necessary. The journey to Sol System took 17 days, during which Nelra shared everything she had discovered about Earth's final days of contact with the Council. The last official transmission spoke of a containment procedure. She explained to her team of 12 diverse aliens. But there was an unofficial message sent hours later, directly to the Council executor. It mentioned something about becoming guardians, and that silence was necessary for survival. Trixie, the expedition's Arcturian navigator, frowned. "Survival of whom? Humans or the rest of us?" "That's what we're here to find out," Nelra replied. As they approached the outer reaches of Earth's solar system, the first anomalies appeared. Massive energy signatures unlike anything in their databases surrounded the system like a web. "Some kind of detection grid," muttered Zex, their security specialist. "Incredibly advanced. It's definitely not the same technology humans were using 3 centuries ago." They proceeded cautiously, navigating through what appeared to be blind spots in the detection network. As they passed the gas giants, they encountered the first active defense: automated drones that emerged from hidden bases on several moons. Evasive maneuvers, Nelra ordered as the first warning shots flashed past their hull. The Stellar Inquirer ducked and weaved through the swarm of defensive automatons. They were persistent but seemed programmed only to deter rather than destroy. After a tense chase through the asteroid belt, they managed to lose their pursuers. "They could have destroyed us if they wanted to," Zex noted, checking the weapon systems. These are warning shots, not elimination protocols. As they approached the inner planets, the true scale of what humanity had done became apparent. Earth itself was encased in what appeared to be a massive energy shield, extending from the upper atmosphere into space. The planet's natural satellite, the Moon, had been transformed into what appeared to be a massive monitoring station, covered in structures that hadn't existed in historical records. "That shield," whispered Vox, their physicist, "the energy output is astronomical. It would take the combined power generation of dozens of civilizations to maintain something like that." Nelra studied the readings with growing astonishment, and it's been active for centuries. How? Why? They established orbit around Mars, Earth's neighboring planet, which showed signs of having once hosted human colonies, but now lay abandoned. From this vantage point, they could study Earth's shield without triggering the more aggressive defenses they had encountered. After 3 days of observation, they detected something unexpected: a narrow corridor in the shield, opening and closing in a regular pattern. It appeared to be some kind of maintenance protocol, allowing small objects to pass through at specific intervals. "It's our only chance," Nelra decided. "We'll send our shuttle through during the next opening." The team was divided on this plan. Half believed it too dangerous, but curiosity ultimately won out. A smaller team consisting of Nelra, Zex, Vox, and Trixie boarded the shuttle and waited for the next shield window. The timing had to be perfect. As the corridor opened, Trixie piloted the shuttle with precision, slipping through the narrow opening seconds before it sealed behind them. They had made it through, the first known visitors to Earth in centuries. The planet below was not the abandoned wasteland they had expected. Sprawling forests covered regions that had once been developed. Cities still existed but were concentrated in specific areas, connected by what appeared to be high-speed transport systems. However, their scanners detected no significant population centers. "I'm reading energy signatures," Vox reported, "but minimal life signs. It's as if the infrastructure is being maintained, but there's hardly anyone here." They landed in a clearing near what had once been a major city, London, according to historical records. As they exited the shuttle in environmental suits, they were greeted by silence. The air was breathable, tests confirmed, but they maintained protocol as they began their exploration. The city's outskirts were being reclaimed by nature, but as they moved inward, they found buildings in perfect condition, streets clean, power systems functional. It was as if the residents had simply stepped away, expecting to return at any moment. "This doesn't make sense," Zex muttered, weapon at the ready. "A civilization doesn't maintain cities for centuries after abandoning them." They proceeded to what had once been a government building, according to their historical data. Inside, they found operational computer systems, lighting that activated as they entered, and climate control that adjusted to their presence. "Someone or something is still here," Nelra said, a chill running down her spine despite the comfortable temperature. Their exploration was interrupted by a mechanical sound. From alcoves in the walls emerged humanoid machines, not threatening, but clearly security-oriented. The machines surrounded them, but made no hostile moves. "Unregistered visitors," one of the machines stated in a perfectly clear voice. "Identify your purpose." Nelra stepped forward. "We are representatives of the Galactic Council, conducting a historical investigation into Earth's withdrawal from interstellar affairs." The machines processed this for a moment. Then, surprisingly, they stepped aside. "Follow," the lead machine instructed. They were led deeper into the building, down several levels below ground, into what appeared to be a communication center. At its heart stood a terminal unlike the others. Older, its design reminiscent of the technology humans had used centuries ago. "This terminal contains a message for the Council, should they ever send representatives," the machine explained. "It has waited 297 years to be delivered." Nelra approached the terminal with trepidation. As she touched the interface, it activated, projecting a holographic image of a human woman in what appeared to be a military uniform. "I am General Diana Chen, Earth Defense Command." The recording began. "If you are viewing this message, you have somehow navigated our defenses and reached Earth. I hope you came seeking answers rather than exploitation, for what I must tell you concerns the fate of all intelligent life in our galaxy." The hologram flickered, and the human's expression became grave. 300 years ago, we discovered something beneath Antarctica that should never have been disturbed. An entity, ancient beyond comprehension, in hibernation since before our species evolved. Our scientists called it the Void Walker. We believe it is not native to our universe. The recording continued, describing how attempts to study the entity had led to disaster, how it had begun to awaken, how its mere presence caused reality to warp, and how it had reached into the minds of those nearby, driving them to madness. We found evidence that this entity has visited countless worlds throughout cosmic history. Each time, it leaves extinction in its wake. Earth was to be next, and then your worlds would follow. We had no choice but to implement the Guardian Protocol. The hologram shifted, showing schematics for the planetary shield they had observed and massive underground structures. "We have contained the entity, but at great cost. Humanity has sacrificed its place among the stars to become eternal guardians. The shield prevents the entity's influence from spreading beyond our world, and we have committed ourselves to ensuring it never escapes." The message ended with a warning. "If you are watching this, you must leave immediately. Your presence risks disrupting the containment. Tell the Council what you have learned. Earth's throne remains empty because we stand guard against a threat beyond understanding. We protect you by our absence." As the recording ended, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. The machines around them became agitated. "Containment fluctuation detected," they announced in unison. "All non-essential personnel must evacuate immediately." This is not a drill. The terminal displayed new information. Energy spikes emanating from Antarctica. The shield showing signs of instability. "What have we done?" whispered Nelra, realizing their presence might have somehow triggered a response from the contained entity. The lead machine turned to them, its voice now urgent. "You must leave. Your presence has been detected by the sleeper. It stirs." As they rushed back to their shuttle, the ground beneath them trembled. In the sky above, they could see the shield flickering, patterns of energy cascading across its surface as if struggling to maintain integrity. They barely made it back to their vessel and through the momentarily weakened shield before it stabilized again. As they rejoined their main ship and prepared to depart the system, Nelra looked back at the blue planet, now understanding the true meaning of Earth's empty throne. It wasn't abandoned. It was a sacrifice. Humanity had removed themselves from the galactic stage, not out of fear or isolation, but to protect everyone else from a horror they had contained within their own world. But as the Stellar Inquirer accelerated away from Sol's system, Nelra couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Their brief visit had disturbed something ancient and terrible, and the question now wasn't just about bringing this information back to the Council. It was whether humanity's centuries-long vigil was about to be tested as never before. The Awakening. The Stellar Inquirer raced through hyperspace, carrying its crew and their disturbing discovery back toward Galactic Council space. In the ship's conference room, Ambassador Nelra replayed the holographic message from General Chen for the entire expedition team. The mood was somber as the implications settled over them. "This changes everything we thought we knew about humanity's disappearance," Vox said, the physicist's multiple eyes blinking rapidly in distress. "They didn't abandon their responsibilities. They took on a greater one." Zex, the security specialist, paced the room. "We need to alert the Council immediately. If this Void Walker entity is as dangerous as they claim, and if our presence has somehow disturbed its containment." Nelra raised a hand to quiet them. "There's more to the message. The terminal downloaded additional data to our systems before we evacuated." She activated another recording, this one showing historical footage of humanity's encounter with the entity. The images were disturbing, strange distortions in reality, researchers becoming psychologically unstable after exposure, and finally, the horrifying partial emergence of something that defied description. It appeared as a shifting mass of darkness with geometries that seemed to bend and twist the space around it. Initial containment protocols failed, narrated a voice over the footage. The entity's influence spread rapidly. 17 major cities were affected before we implemented the Omega solution. The recording showed massive excavations beneath Antarctica, the construction of enormous machines that generated the planetary shield, and the difficult decision to isolate Earth from the rest of the galaxy. The entity feeds on consciousness, the narration continued. The more minds that are aware of its existence, the stronger it becomes. This is why we erased all records of it from galactic databases and withdrew from the Council. Knowledge of its existence is dangerous. Merely thinking about it provides it with power. Trixie, the navigator, shuddered. Then, by learning about it, aren't we making it stronger? It's worse than that, Nelra said grimly. According to these files, humanity discovered that the entity had visited countless worlds throughout history. The myths and legends of cosmic horrors and ancient gods found in so many cultures across the galaxy, they were all referring to encounters with this entity or others like it. The data continued, explaining how humans had developed a unique solution. They had created a specialized neural interface that allowed certain individuals to enter a state of suspended animation, while their consciousness formed a psychic barrier around the entity. These volunteers, called guardians, sacrificed their normal lives to become part of the containment system. That explains the minimal life signs, Vox realized. Most of humanity must be in stasis, their minds forming this psychic barrier. As they processed this information, the ship's sensors triggered an alert. Something was following them through hyperspace, an impossibility according to known physics. Multiple contacts, reported the sensor operator, panic evident in their voice. I don't know what they are. On the view screens, strange distortions appeared in the hyperspace tunnel around them. Shapes that seemed to shift between dimensions, never quite resolving into recognizable forms. It's reaching out, Nelra whispered in horror. The entity is sending parts of itself after us. The ship shuddered as one of the distortions made contact with their hull. Immediately, several crew members collapsed, their nervous systems overwhelmed. Others began to behave erratically, speaking in languages none recognized. It's influencing the crew, Zek shouted, drawing a weapon. We need to sever the connection. The ship's AI implemented emergency protocols, sealing affected sections, and adjusting the shields to a frequency mentioned in the Earth data as potentially disruptive to the entity's influence. The distortions retreated temporarily, but remained visible at the edges of their sensor range. We can't lead these things back to populated systems, Nelra decided. Alter course to the Veiled Nebula outpost. It's minimally staffed, but has powerful communication arrays. We can send a warning to the Council from there. As they changed course, the ship's communication system activated unexpectedly. A voice spoke, distorted and fluctuating in pitch, but understandable. This is Guardian Control, Earth Defense Network. Unauthorized vessel, we have detected entity contamination aboard your ship. Quarantine protocols must be implemented immediately. Before they could respond, their ship was yanked violently out of hyperspace. They found themselves in an empty region of space, facing a vessel of obvious human design, but utilizing technology far beyond what humans had possessed 3 centuries ago. This is Commander Eliza Santos of the Earth Vanguard, came a new voice, accompanied by the image of a human woman in a form-fitting uniform covered in circuitry patterns. Your vessel has been compromised. Prepare to be boarded. Resistance was futile. The human ship deployed some kind of energy field that disabled their systems, and within minutes, armored figures transported aboard. The humans wore sealed suits with helmets that completely obscured their features. They moved with precision, isolating affected crew members and administering some kind of treatment that rendered them unconscious. Commander Santos herself boarded, approaching Nelra and the core expedition team who had visited Earth's surface. "You shouldn't have come to Earth," Santos said, her voice carrying no anger, only resignation. "Now you've complicated an already precarious situation." "We didn't know," Nelra responded. "The Council has wondered about Earth's absence for centuries." Santos nodded. "And now you've created a beacon for the entity to follow. Your minds are now aware of its existence, which means you're potential conduits for its influence." She explained that humanity had not been as isolated as they appeared. Small contingents like her vanguard operated beyond the shield, monitoring for any signs of the entity's influence spreading to other worlds. "We've maintained our vigil for 300 years, Santos continued. "Generations of humans have lived and died never knowing the stars because we cannot risk the entity escaping Earth." "But what exactly is this entity?" Vox asked. The recordings weren't clear. Santos' expression darkened. "We don't fully understand it ourselves. It exists partly in our universe, and partly elsewhere. What we do know is that consciousness itself empowers it. Thought, awareness, observation. These strengthen its connection to our reality." She explained that humanity had discovered a terrible truth. The entity was one of many similar beings that existed beyond normal spacetime. They infiltrated reality through consciousness, using aware minds as anchors to pull themselves into existence. "Your expedition has created a problem," Santos said. "By learning of the entity, by observing it even through recordings, you've created new connections it can exploit. Already it's attempting to follow those connections, sending fragments of itself after you." The situation was worse than they had imagined. According to Santos, the containment on Earth was showing signs of strain. The psychic barrier maintained by the human guardians was weakening after centuries, and their visit had accelerated the degradation. "We need to return to Earth," Santos decided. "Your ship will be cleansed and your affected crew treated, but you must witness what humanity has sacrificed to keep the galaxy safe. Only then will you understand what must be done." Under escort from the Earth Vanguard vessel, they returned to Sol's system. This time, they passed openly through the defensive grid, the human ship transmitting authorization codes that deactivated the automated sentinels. As they approached Earth, Nelra observed changes in the shield, fluctuations and instabilities that hadn't been present during their first visit. Something was happening. They landed at a facility built into the side of a mountain, identified as Guardian Command. Inside, they witnessed the true scale of humanity's sacrifice. Vast chambers contained thousands of suspension pods, each holding a human connected to an intricate neural interface. These were the Guardians, their minds forming the collective barrier that contained the entity. "Our oldest Guardians have been in stasis for nearly 3 centuries, explained Santos as they toured the facility. "We rotate new volunteers in as older ones reach the end of their natural lifespan, but each transition weakens the barrier temporarily." In the center of the complex stood a massive monitoring station, where technicians tracked the status of the containment. The displays showed alarming patterns: energy spikes, containment fluctuations, and growing disturbances centered on Antarctica. "It's worse than we feared," Santos said, reviewing the data. "Your presence has agitated the entity. It senses new connections to the outside universe, new paths for escape." A technician approached urgently. "Commander, we're detecting unprecedented activity. The primary containment chamber is showing structural integrity failures." Santos' face paled. "Evacuate non-essential personnel. Activate all reserve Guardians." Turning to Nelra and her team, Santos made a decision. "You came seeking answers about Earth's empty throne. Now you'll see the true reason we've isolated ourselves." They descended deep beneath the facility, through layers of security and shielding, finally reaching a massive chamber built around what appeared to be a natural cave system. At its center, visible through multiple layers of energy barriers, was darkness, not merely the absence of light, but a darkness that seemed to consume it. The space around this darkness warped and twisted, making it difficult to look at directly. The primary containment chamber, Santos explained. What you're seeing is the interface between our universe and whatever realm the entity inhabits. We cannot destroy it. It doesn't fully exist in our reality. We can only contain it, prevent it from fully manifesting. As they watched, the darkness pulsed, and several energy barriers flickered. Alarm signals blared, and personnel rushed to stabilize the systems. "It's breaking through," a technician shouted. "Guardians in sectors 7 through 12 are reporting psychic intrusion." Santos turned to Nelra. "Now you understand what's at stake. If the entity escapes, it won't just destroy Earth. It will spread throughout the galaxy, feeding on conscious minds, growing stronger with each world it touches." The severity of the situation was clear. This wasn't just Earth's problem. It threatened all intelligent life. Nelra made a decision that would change galactic history. The Council must know. Not just a few representatives, the entire Council. All species need to understand what humanity has been doing for centuries. Santos shook her head. "No, you don't understand. Knowledge of the entity strengthens it. If the entire Council learns of its existence, then we'll face it together." Nelra interrupted. "Humanity has shouldered this burden alone for too long. The empty throne wasn't abandoned, it was sacrificed. It's time for the rest of us to share that sacrifice." As if in response to her words, the containment systems suddenly stabilized. The darkness receded slightly, the distortions becoming less pronounced. "That's unexpected," Santos said, studying the readouts. "The psychic barrier is strengthening." A senior Guardian technician approached, awe in his voice. "Commander, the alien minds. They are resonating with the Guardian network. Their awareness of the threat, their willingness to help. It's creating a different kind of barrier, not containment, but rejection." It was a revelation. For centuries, humanity had focused on containment, on keeping the entity trapped. But Nelra and her team, representing diverse species with entirely different consciousness patterns, had inadvertently demonstrated an alternative approach. "It fears diversity," Vox realized. A single species, even one as adaptable as humanity, can only oppose it in limited ways. But multiple species, multiple forms of consciousness working together, create an environment hostile to its existence. Santos finished, understanding dawning. "We've been approaching this wrong all along." In the days that followed, a new plan took shape. Earth would maintain its containment, but the secret would be shared, carefully, strategically, with representatives from all Council species. A new initiative would be formed, with volunteers from across the galaxy joining humans as guardians, creating a psychic barrier not just of containment but of cosmic rejection. When Nelra and her team finally returned to the Galactic Council, they brought with them a delegation of humans, the first to leave Earth in centuries. Together, they presented the truth about Earth's empty throne and proposed a new future. The human representative, Commander Santos, stood before the assembled council, her voice strong despite the emotion behind her words. "For 300 years, humanity has stood guard against a threat beyond comprehension. We withdrew not out of fear or indifference, but out of duty and sacrifice. Today, we ask not to reclaim our throne, but to transform it. No longer will it stand empty as a symbol of absence, but as a reminder of the vigilance required to protect our shared universe." The Council voted unanimously to establish the Cosmic Guardian Initiative, a multi-species effort to continue what humanity had begun. Earth's shield would be maintained, but reinforced with new technologies and psychic contributions from volunteers across the galaxy. Earth's throne would remain symbolic, not empty, but shared. A rotation of representatives from the species participating in the Guardian program would occupy it, honoring humanity's original sacrifice, while acknowledging that the burden now belonged to all. As for the entity itself, it retreated deeper into its prison, confronted for the first time with the full spectrum of conscious resistance. The diverse minds united against it created an environment increasingly hostile to its existence. Nelra, appointed as the initiative's first director, stood with Santos on a viewing platform overlooking the new Guardian facility being constructed in orbit around Earth. Below them, the planetary shield shimmered with new patterns as technologies from a dozen worlds integrated with human designs. "Do you think we'll ever truly defeat it?" Nelra asked, watching as volunteer guardians from across the galaxy prepared to join their human counterparts. Santos smiled, a genuine expression of hope after centuries of grim determination. "Perhaps not in our lifetimes, but for the first time since we discovered it, I believe it's possible. Not through containment alone, but through unity." The empty throne that had puzzled the galaxy for centuries had revealed its purpose, not as a seat of power abandoned, but as a symbol of sacrifice made. And now, that symbol had transformed once more, becoming a beacon of cooperation that would ensure the survival of all conscious life against the darkness that lurked between realities. Earth's throne would never be truly empty again.